This afternoon, you're listening to the Todd LaBorwit Show, Real Estate Radio and Salem Broadcast Network, WRC 1260 AM. I'm your host, Todd LaBorwit, and this segment is brought to you by Snow Goose Homes, our preferred partner for buying your house for cash and having money in your account in as little as 5 business days. And in the studio with us now is Lorenzo Wooten Jr. He's the managing partner over at KW Commercial. Welcome to the studio.
Hey, thank you for having me, Todd.
We're really loving this commercial real estate segments, having people on, because I'm learning so much. There's so much opportunity that's out there.
There is. It's an awesome time, especially in this D.C. metro area. So in D.C. specifically, you see a lot of buildings going up, a lot of investors, a lot of people looking to make the most out of that opportunity.
And it's interesting because a lot of people that I see are in the commercial real estate, they fall in love with the residential side.
Yes.
Do very well with, it's kind of like playing Monopoly. And then they move over to the commercial real estate where the big money is.
They graduate, yes.
So tell me, is that how your story worked?
That's my story. I started off in residential. I started off on the finance end, and when I first came out of school, so I've been in real estate my entire life, so I guess I'm a little crazy about real estate. And you
even had a background at Fannie Mae.
I did. I was with Fannie Mae for 5 years, and I was working sales and training brokers and real estate agents on commercial real estate. Real estate. And then I came on to Keller Williams in 2009.
Wow. And now you're specializing in, there's so much, a lot of people specialize in different things. What do you specialize in?
I specialize in commercial real estate as a tenant rep, where I represent tenants and buyers that are buying and leasing commercial real estate in Prince George's and Washington, D.C.
Okay, and you also work with investors.
Yes, I also work with investors, so buyers mostly that are seeking to obtain cash flow. So mostly multifamily buildings, sometimes it's office buildings, but they're looking to get a return on their investment.
Perfect. And let's tell the listeners behind where we met.
Okay.
We were over at the
DC Cap.
DC Cap over for West Unseld.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a roast for West Unseld, and they had the whole championship team from 1976,
right?
A long time ago.
So many popular people are in there.
Exactly. Ted Leonis was there, and it was a great cause, and the fundraisers and the auction items. I don't know if you bought anything. It was
I wasn't allowed.
Okay. Yes. Your wife looked like she was writing the paycheck that day. Checkbook.
Well, we have a newborn, so it's...
Okay. That makes sense. But no, that was
But I did have my eye on one item, though.
What's that?
The guitar that was signed by all the...
I don't remember.
They had the Beatles signed.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I saw a jersey signed by John Wall, but I'm sure I didn't win that.
Yeah, a lot of great items.
Absolutely.
But moving back to the real estate.
Okay.
Our listeners, we're all about real estate. All of us live and breathe real estate, and you're here because we want to learn from you what's out there. How can we make money off of commercial real estate? How do you get that person that loves real estate on the residential side to jump over and start investing into commercial real estate?
Absolutely. And coming from residential, I can talk that talk and walk that walk, not only as an agent, a broker working in commercial real estate, but also I do investment myself. So the model is a little bit similar. You look at a property, you want to know what you can buy it for, what it may take to renovate it, and what's the resale value. And if there's another scenario, I want to buy, renovate, and what is the cash flow? So I've been through extensive training and had a lot of experience in understanding the models that dictate what's your cash flow for like the next 5 years. So that's very helpful for an investor or any investor to say, what's my money going to do?
And the thing that's interesting to me, and we talked about this several times with other people, is when someone goes in to buy an investment property,
okay,
and it's commercial,
right?
What are the reasons that people are selling for? Like if you have a cash flow going,
right?
What would be a reason for people to sell?
It could be interesting, various scenarios. They may be a situation where they're older, retired, and they just want to move away and just put their money into a safer investment, and and they're just tired of that asset. It could be another scenario where they want to pursue another investment. So they may establish a 1031 exchange, and so they'll utilize those funds and put them to a tax shelter and purchase something else. But a lot of times they want to hold on to the property. So especially in this market, because rents are going up, demand is high, and it can be a cash cow.
Wow. So how does someone get into, like, do you get into, you buy a house, try to pay it down as much as you can, and then take money? Teach me, like.
The first step?
Yeah.
Well, that's how I started.
It seems like it's for the wealthy.
But it's not. I think you would start small. I wouldn't advise a first-time commercial investor to go out and buy a 100-unit apartment building. So you may start at a 5-unit, 6-unit, a commercial property. But to your point, it usually starts off with your primary residence, which was myself. I sold that because I moved into a bigger home, and you take that equity and use it for what you may use for, but you may use the other funds for your first property. And in my case, it was an apartment building. So it's usually a domino effect is one way to do it. And I know investors that bought, renovate, took the equity, and they just gradually grew their capital, and then they were able to, step up to the big league, I guess you want to call it.
That's amazing. Well, by the way, if you're just tuning in, I have with me Lorenzo Wooten Jr. He's a managing director at KW Commercial. And I am your host, Todd LaBorwit, and you're listening to Salem Broadcast Network, WRC 1260 AM. Now, so it sounds like, to me, you're like a coach.
Yes.
And the person that goes out there and helps people get on their feet and do things to kind of keep it flowing.
I never looked at it that way.
You're like a Monopoly coach.
I'm a Monopoly coach? Okay,
right.
I was thinking like a famous basketball coach or something like that, but I'll take that. So yes, it's like you're sitting, you're kind of orchestrating all the players to make it work for your client. So if I'm working with an investor, I may have to bring in various different experts, a structural engineer. I have to bring in a finance person, an insurance guy. You could bring in different players to help make that asset work for them. So I've had a lot of church clients this year. And so in particular, they bought a church. And so I had to bring in enough inspectors to make sure they were buying an asset that wasn't falling apart. And then also, set up their legal structure because they were buying in a new jurisdiction. So yes, a coach that is managing a lot of moving parts.
Wonderful. Now, you mentioned that you have a 15-unit building.
Yes.
Explain. I'm not here for sales for the listeners, but walk me through someone that would buy that. Like, what's the financing? How does that work? I don't need to know rates, but
absolutely.
What does someone need to know looking into this? Like, when people come to me saying I want to buy a house, I got to sit down and say, well, this is what you need for down payment, closing cost. I'm not in the commercial end.
Absolutely.
Explain it to me as I'm new.
Absolutely. So looking at the 15-unit building that I was mentioning, and it's vacant in this particular case. So there's no cash flow to study, and it hasn't been for years in this building.
And there's no one to evict?
There's no one to evict. So that could be a good thing, especially in a district where they have really tight tenant occupancy laws. So with that being said, you would look at that building and understand what's the cash flow. So my job is to tell you what the rental rates are for the 1- and 2-bedroom units in this building. Secondly, I need to know how much would it take to put into this building to obtain it. To get a commercial loan, typically your minimum down payment is going to be 25%. So you could probably do the math, $1,300,000 building, 25% down payment. Now you need to understand what is my time before I can start generating income. And so if it's vacant, I'm buying, I may have to do some small renovations, but I need to understand how long will it take to get a tenant.
Now, what about insurance?
Insurance, they have commercial insurance. So I would recommend a commercial insurance that would put, commercial insurance carrier or agent that would apply insurance for that investor.
And are there squatters? You hear all these horror stories, like where people move in, they break in, they stay there, and then you can't even evict them.
Exactly. Not really. I mean, it can be, of course. There are, pros and cons to any type of real estate property, residential or commercial. But that's where a good property manager comes in. Because a lot of my clients, they don't necessarily want to answer the phone calls 2 o'clock in the morning for 15 different tenants if, the toilet goes out or a light fixture's not working. So a good property manager is what I always recommend because that's going to help out. They're there to make money. Obviously, they want a good asset and they want to treat the tenants fair and be a good landlord, but they should hire someone to do that.
What type of person shouldn't be buying a property?
That is a very good question.
Because I go to a lot of events where people love real estate. And
right.
I see couples that are retired. They have a little bit of saved up savings, and they're looking to make their next move. So they'll try to buy a house and fix it up, and then they put too much into it. There's a learning curve where their heart's in the right place, but
I get that all the time. So a lot of times I'll get calls from clients that aren't ready now. So the primarily will be liquidity. So if you're putting your last dollar or very close to it into this asset, that's not going to be a good idea right now because anything can go wrong. You can get delays with permits or anything. So I would say a person that doesn't have enough for their savings and to acquire that asset should probably hold off. And then secondly, working on a situation where they need additional structure as far as their legal structure. Because I always advise clients they should not purchase in their personal name. They should purchase in an LLC or whatever their attorney advises. I'm not an attorney, but they should definitely purchase in the name of a company versus in their personal name.
It's interesting.
Awesome. Well, Todd, I wanted to offer your listeners a sheet that I could provide them 10 tips on what they should know before they buy or lease their next commercial real estate property.
Well, I really appreciate it. So what I want to offer you, our listeners, is the opportunity to get in touch with Lorenzo Wooten and get a copy of those 10 tips. Call or text me at 301-467-8444. That number again is 301-467-8444. Thank you, Lorenzo, for being here and giving us a great information.
Thank you, Todd.
I want to talk to you after the show. Maybe I can get to the next level.
All right.